Hi all, welcome back to a new session of Appreciating Drama. Today's topic is from the world play that is The Beer, a Joke in One Act or The Boor by Anton Chekhov. The Beer, a Joke in One Act or The Boor is a one-act comedic play written by Russian author Anton Chekhov, and the play was originally dedicated to Nikolai Nikolaevich Solozhenitsyn and Chekhov's boyhood friend and director actor who first played the character Smirnov. And the main characters from this play: Elena Ivanova Popo, a landowning little widow and with dimples on her cheeks, and her husband has died. And second main character, Grigory Stepanovich Smirnov, a middle-aged landowner, and the third main character, Luka Popova's aged footman. And the plot of the play takes place in the drawing room of Elena Ivanova Popova's estate exactly 7 months after her husband's death. And since her husband died, Popova has locked herself in the house in mourning. And her footman Luka begins the play by begging Popova to stop mourning and step outside the estate. And she ignores him, saying that she made a promise to her husband to remain forever faithful to his memory. And their conversation is interrupted when Grigory Stepanovich Smirnov arrives and wishes to see Elena Popova. Although Luka tells Grigory Smirnov to leave, and he ignores Luka's request and enters the dining room. And Popova agrees to meet with him, and Smirnov explains to her that her late husband owes him a sum of 1,200 rubles as a debt. Because he is a landowner, Smirnov explains that he needs the sum paid to him on that same day to pay for the mortgage of a house due the next day. And Popova explains that she has no money with her and that she will settle her husband's debt when her steward arrives the day after tomorrow. And Smirnov gets angered by her refusal to pay him back and mocks the supposed mourning of her husband, saying, "Well, their estate of mine, husband died 7 months ago. Must I pay the interest or mustn't I? I ask you, must I pay or must I not? Suppose your husband is dead and you have got a state of mind and the nonsense of that sort, and your state words gone away somewhere, devil take him. What do you want me to do? Do you think I can fly away from my creditors in a balloon or what? Or do you expect me to go and run my head into a brick wall?" Smirnov decides that he will not leave that estate until his debts are paid off, even if that means waiting until the day after tomorrow. He and Popova get into another argument when he starts yelling at the footman to bring him wax or any alcoholic beverage. The argument turns into a debate about true love according to the different genders. And Smirnov argues that women are incapable of loving anybody except a lapdog. To which Popova argues that she wholeheartedly loved her husband although he cheated on her and disrespected her. The argument deteriorates into another shouting match about paying back the debt. During this argument, Popova insults Smirnov by calling him a beer, among other names, saying, "You are a boor, a coarse bear, a bourbon, a monster." Smirnov insulted calls for a duel, not caring that Popova is a woman. And Popova, in turn, enthusiastically agrees and goes off to get a pair of guns her husband owned. And Luca overhears their conversation, gets frightened for him mistress, and goes off to find someone to help put an end to their feud before anyone gets hurt. Meanwhile, Smirnov says to himself how impressed he is by Popova's audacity and slowly realizes that he has actually fallen in love with her and her dimpled cheeks. When Popova returns with the pistols, Smirnov makes his love confession, and Popova oscillates between refusing him and ordering him to leave and telling him to stay. Eventually, the two get close and kiss each other just as Luca returns with the gender and coachman. And the history of the play, the boar or the beer. The beer is one of many of Chekhov's fierce vaudevilles, and which also includes the proposal, a tragedian in spite of himself, and the unfinished night before the trial. And in a letter to Yakov Polonsky on February 22nd, 1888, Chekhov wrote, "Just to while away the time, and I wrote a trivial little vaudeville in the French manner called the beer. Alas, when they out on New Times find out that I write vaudevilles, they will excommunicate me. And what am I to do? I planned something worthwhile, and it is all tra la la. And in spite of all my attempts and being serious, the result is nothing with me. The serious alternates with the trial or trivial." And Chekhov used the French play Les Journaux de Cadillac by Perry Burton as inspiration for the beer. And the main similarity between the two involves the idea of the male being a beer tamed by a woman. It's very important. The main similarity between the two involves the idea of the male being a beer tamed by a woman. And Les Journals de Cadillac was originally performed by the actor Nikolai Soloso, and whom Chekhov dedicated the beer to and ultimately plays the role of Smirnov. And the adaptations of this play, the boor or the beer. And the play is the bias for operas by Dominic Argento. The boor 1957, and the William Walton the beer, that is in the 1967. And it was also the inspiration for the second act of the 1979 musical A Day in Hollywood, A Night in the Ukraine. On October 12, 1950, the Nash Airflight Theatre presented the boor starring Frederick March on CBS TV. And it was adapted for an episode of the radio show on stage in 1953. And Walter Brown Newman wrote the script as a western, and Kathy Lewis, Elliot Lewis, Byron Kane, and Horace Murphy starred. In 2000, it was made into a short film, Speed for Thespians, in which a group of actors put on the beer on a New York City bus. And the main themes of this play, the boor or the beer. The beer's comedy derives from the character's lack of self-knowledge. The widow Popova fancies herself inconsolably brewered, and while Smirnov considered himself a misogynist. They are both stock examples of alazons, figures made ludicrous by pretending to be more than they actually are. First one, the theme from the first one, the beer comedy derives from the character's lack of self knowledge. Okay, lack of self knowledge, character's lack of self knowledge. That is the first theme from this play. And why the play is titled The Beer. Next point, that is why the play is titled The Beer. The title The Beer comes straight from the play as a reference to Smirnov by Popova. Popova claimed that Smirnov was a crude man who did not know how to treat a woman. Very important point. The title The Beer comes straight from the play as a reference to Smirnov by Popova. And Popova claimed that Smirnov was a crude man who did not know how to treat a woman. And today's questions to find out the answers. Write a note on the use of humor and irony in The Beer by Chekhov. Write a note on the use of humor and irony in The Beer by Anton Chekhov. And the second question, what is the significance of the title The Beer? Very important question from this play, old play, The Beer or the Boor. What is the significance of the title The Beer? Okay, and that's all about today's class. Thank you. Happy learning. Thank you all.